welcome, beloved community. We are back again with yet another installment of the People's Water Board Coalition's Water Wednesday webcast. And as always, I am here with my beloved co host, Valerie Jean.
Hi, everyone.
And we can never forget our behind the scenes tech guru extraordinaire, Miss Angelica, who keeps us running smoothly and consistently week after week, bringing you relevant content. We couldn't do the show without her. And today we have a special guest that's here to talk to us about some very important issues surrounding the Line 5 pipeline. Her name is Ashley Rudzinski, and she is a climate and environmental program director for Groundwork Center for Resilient Communities. It is so great to have you here today, Ashley. We really appreciate you, taking time out of your uber busy schedule to come and talk to us about this.
That's great.
Valerie can tell you we've done many shows around Line 5, making sure that our viewers in the community know exactly what's going on with that.
Well, this is such an important topic, and I'm really excited to be here with both of you today. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. And in really short notice, we our viewers have, we get a lot of requests to talk about Line 5 and keep people abreast of what's happening because it changes daily. And we've been struggling against Line 5 as Michiganders for over a decade now. It's just so it feels like it's all really kind of coming to a head at this point. And can you just kind of talk about the history leading up to this moment and this pivotal Michigan Supreme Court moment, right? And the decision regarding Line 5, Enbridge Line 5.
Sure. So there is a lot of ground to cover here. I'll kind of start with just sort of the basics. Really, a lot of light was shed on Line 5 when another pipeline that Enbridge owned ruptured in Kalamazoo. The Kalamazoo oil spill happened, and it made folks start poking around and curious about what other pipelines traverse the state of Michigan, especially in some of our more sensitive areas ecologically. And that led Beth Wallace with the National Wildlife Foundation to actually look at a map, saw Line 5 there, and was like, oh my gosh, this is a huge red flag. That was in about 2012. It started, she published a report called Sunken Hazard, and that really started to kick things off in a big way in terms of a movement across Michigan. People became aware of the pipeline. They became concerned, obviously, about this pipeline that is now 72 years old, spans across the state of Michigan. So the real action kind of began on the legal front in about 2019 in June, when Attorney General Nessel made good on her promises as a candidate and actually sued to shut down Line 5 based on the public trust doctrine and common law public nuisance. So as well as the Michigan Environmental Protection Act. So that lawsuit was the first to be filed, was a major milestone in the case and kind of the biggest legal action that we had seen at that time. Pretty shortly thereafter, in November of the next year in 2020, and actually revoked the 1953 easement, as well as issued a shutdown order. So
we all celebrated.
Yes, major movements in the campaign against Line 5. Each of those were originally on a state path for consideration in state court. There's been lots of legal maneuvering that has gone on by Enbridge.
Yeah, Enbridge is a beast. They came ready to the party.
Yes, they certainly have resources.
Yep.
So, Enbridge obviously appealed Governor Whitmer's case, that they appealed it to the U.S. District Court, essentially tried to remove the case to federal court, arguing that there were federal issues at play here. The country of Canada became highly involved with their 1953 easement, with their, not 1953 easement, with the Interstate Pipelines Transit Treaty. And so ultimately that case was removed to federal court, and ultimately, Whitmer basically decided to drop the case after it was decided to continue in federal court. It was not as far along as the Nessel case anyway. And so for a lot of different reasons, venue shopping being a primary one that was done by Enbridge, she decided to remove that, or to abandon the case. So Nestle's case is continuing forward. This has ping-ponged between federal and state court.
Yeah.
An appeal by Enbridge, when it was removed back to state court, was just heard a few weeks ago in the U.S. Supreme Court. So there has been a lot of back and forth. We are awaiting judgment
where
from
this
the
belongs,
U.S.
where it's going to
Yeah.
land.
Exactly. So that will be decided by the U.S. Supreme Court, which is a pretty big milestone in June. Now, there's a lot going on in the state of Michigan. There's also a lot going on in the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
The Bad River Band in Wisconsin has also been involved in litigation over Line 5. Essentially, a federal judge has ruled that Enbridge has been operating the pipeline in trespass for the last decade in the state of, or on
Huge
Bad
ruling.
River Band's territory. And so
Amazing.
this, we just had some recent action on this front as well. Unfortunately, the stay for being able to start construction was denied, and so that is moving forward now. It's a
It
major
started
blow to
the
Yeah.
construction on the reroute.
Yep, the reroute has started. Major blow to things on the Wisconsin side, but obviously
Heartbreaking.
we're continuing to support allies there who are opposing that, because we've seen what happened. When Enbridge, did a similar action to push permits forward, move really quick on Line 3 in Minnesota. There were a tremendous number of aquifer breaches. It was rushed through, and it was not done in an appropriate way.
And it ended up catastrophic. I mean, there was just
Absolutely.
so much damage done.
Now, I heard
Exactly.
you speak about Governor Whitmer's case that she eventually dropped against Enbridge. And in my
Mhm.
mind, hearing that the Attorney General already had a case, if the governor had continued that, would that not bolster what was already being done by the Attorney General?
She didn't want to fight with Canada.
I
Well,
understand
so
that, but you think it would be a benefit to the case that already existed.
it actually, I'm not an attorney. I feel like I
Yeah.
sometimes get to play one on TV, but what I have heard from folks smarter than myself is that it actually could have been pretty damaging to the Attorney General's case to have the
Okay.
two cases proceeding, one in state court and one in federal.
Okay.
Enbridge has essentially been, trying to remove the case to federal court because they don't want to be they don't want to be held to account for the arguments that have been brought in the state's case, things like the Michigan Environmental Protection Act and the public trust doctrine. Federal courts only look at federal issues,
Okay.
where state courts have sort of a broader latitude to explore state issues and federal issues.
Got it.
So the appropriate place for this case is state court. And if it had moved forward on a federal track to the Whitmer one, there may not have been as deep, really any exploration of those state issues at play. So it actually could have, if it had moved faster forward, it could have created a problematic precedent when considering the parallel case in state court. So I think that was sort of the legal gymnastics that got them to the decision to abandon that case. And the Attorney General's case was along further at that time in state court anyway.
So with that being said, we know that people have been organizing against Line 5 for like well over a decade. What are our hopes as citizens and activists that the Michigan Supreme Court will decide?
Yes. So this kind of takes me to an agency lens. We've been talking a lot about what's going on the legal front, but on an agency front, there are essentially 3 permits that Enbridge has to have in order to be able to move the project forward. They need an Army Corps permit. That's a federal permit that they have been waiting on. There is a permit from the Michigan Public Service Commission, which is the one that's being contested right now in the Michigan Supreme Court.
Yep.
And then there is a decision on the 404 permits from Eagle that we are still waiting on. So 3 major permits. If any one of them is not approved, then the tunnel project for Line 5 does not move forward. And essentially what is before the Michigan Supreme Court now is an appeal of the MPSC's approval. MPSC, going back to, I think they made that decision in 2023.
And just so folks know, MPSC is Michigan Public Service Commission.
Yes, apologies. But yeah, so the Public Service Commission approved that order on December 1st of 2023.
Yeah.
And so now that was appealed to the Court of Appeals. Ultimately, the Court of Appeals sided with the agency, which, is fairly typical in administrative law to see a lot of deference shown to the agency decision making. But that decision has now been filed up to the Michigan Supreme Court. So
Okay.
that is the decision. Hopefully we will see that reversed by the Michigan Supreme Court. Really, the Michigan Public Service Commission failed on their obligation to explore issues related to the common law public trust. Are they actually protecting the navigable waters of the state of Michigan in trust for the people of Michigan? That is a duty they are bound to. We believe that they have failed. They also,
Absolutely.
in that broader umbrella and under consideration of the Michigan Environmental Protection Act, they also failed to consider the climate impacts, which are sprawling of this project.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And the devastation, even just the digging and tunneling and all of that for the boring and the digging for the tunnel is catastrophic. Just, huge amounts of wastewater get ejected into the water every day that it's being built. Line 5 was supposed to, as our viewers know, is supposed to, really be decommissioned after 50 years. And it's 72 years old. So it's past its due date. There's no tunnel project. This is experimental tunnel project too. Like, let's just say it that
Right.
way.
It's never been
Um,
done.
it's never been it's never been done,
And
especially
it
in a
hasn't
place
been tested
the
either.
waters are so tumultuous, right? And it's terrible all the way around. It's terrible. As if Line
Yeah.
5 wasn't terrible enough to have tar sands running through the Great Lakes, right? The tunnel project is so bad.
Yeah. And we can't say we are not aware of what could happen because we saw what it could happen on a smaller scale with Line 3.
And well,
Exactly.
and the largest inland oil spill, right, was the one that happened in Kalamazoo River, and that was
Exactly.
Enbridge Line 6B, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
we don't have
The
to wonder
company.
what would happen. It would be catastrophic for everyone. They're
Exactly.
still picking tar balls out of the Kalamazoo River.
And they shall for years to come.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Mhm. Right. And so it's, an extremely, extremely problematic proposal. We are up against a big deadline. We will likely have an answer next week, Friday. March 13th is sort of the big day for when we're anticipating a decision from the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, EGLE. And that's going to be another major milestone in this
Yeah.
case. Hopefully they, abide by the law and deny the permits, considering,
Yeah, they never stand with the people, but the least they can do is abide by the law. It's very rare that we see EGLE actually stand with the people. They
Exactly.
don't. They always stand with corporations, and Enbridge is they're beasts. They yeah. Enbridge is huge,
A
and
mega monster.
it's
They're
like,
a
yeah,
mega
it's
monster.
going up against uh the worst corporation on the planet as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, and they certainly, have the dollars to continue to litigate this at every turn. So
Yeah,
it really makes it hard for the people's voice to be heard when there
It
is so
does.
much, money that really influences, our everything from our politics to just their ability to continue to appeal this ad
right,
nauseum.
and we know that people all over Michigan and, throughout the United States, actually, but, people all over Michigan, we've been talking about Line 5 long enough that people all over Michigan know what it is. They understand that this is bad. It doesn't even matter what political side of the aisle you're on. You know that this is bad.
Yeah.
This is one thing that I've noticed, that it's always been interesting to me that we can meet everybody here. Everybody knows that we have to protect our water. So it's people already all over Michigan stand against it. They've been standing against it for years now. This is a pivotal moment. This is going to be one of those things where, it's we're gonna see how, but there's gonna be a resistance if it doesn't go our way. There's already huge resistance. It's already being organized. So, we'll see how this, how this plays out. So you've got a lot going on as far as actions. March 11th is our big day.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's buses coming. It sounds like I've been seeing buses coming from all over that are going to be going to Michigan or going to Lansing. You all have organized a bus coming out of Traverse City, right? And there's this huge press conference and things like that. Can you tell us about it and how people can get plugged in and what's going to happen that day and all of the things?
Yes. Yeah. It's going to be a major day. Hopefully, one that folks want to be involved in and show up for.
That's
Essentially,
right.
if you're coming from northern Michigan and want to hop on the bus, we are coordinating with our partners at Oil and Water Don't Mix a bus to depart from Traverse City to Lansing. So that will leave here at about 5:45 in the morning. It's an early morning. Grab your coffee.
Yeah.
Sorry for that. But it will arrive in Lansing at the Central United Methodist Church at 8:30. We'll have coffee and bagels for folks. Um, and we will basically live stream the oral arguments there from the church, and then gather on the steps of the Michigan Supreme Court following the oral arguments at 11:30 for a press conference, and all of the appellants will be there. With another hat that I wear as the co-director of the Great Lakes Business Network, I know a number of businesses will be there to share the economic argument against Line 5. And then the bus will depart back for Traverse City and return here at about 3:30 if you're joining that leg of it. But folks are really welcomed to attend any part of it they can. If they're coming from other parts of the state, that's great too. You can either just join in Lansing at the press conference in the church. You can just attend the press conference. There are a few different options available on Oil and Water's website for joining and tuning in. And if you can't make it, you also can tune in online and just, watch the oral arguments yourself from the state's live stream.
And we'll have all that information from Oil and Water Don't Mix website in the information box down below for our listeners. So that way you can plug right in. It'll be right. All the information will be here in the Water Wednesday video
Yeah.
description. This is really important. Where I already know people are going to show up, that this is something that's been on people's hearts and minds for a very, very long time. And we are in this moment together after a long haul struggle against Line 5 in Enbridge. And we just have to stop them. And the Attorney General has been doing her due diligence. Really proud of the way that she's moved on this. We met her in Ohio last year or the year before, when this case was really, really kind of bubbling up. So she's been showing up and showing out, and we're really we're standing with her. Michiganders are standing with our Attorney General
Absolutely.
strong on this. So, thank you for this organizing work that you're doing, and it's really nice to meet you.
Likewise. Well, and thank you for the work that you're doing to spread the word and make sure folks are able to plug into these big movement moments. This is going to be, the next
Absolutely.
couple weeks are critical on Line 5.
Critical.
Yes.
If folks have not already called Eagle, have not called the governor, now is the time to do so. It's
Yep.
never been more
Yep.
important.
And you can find all of that information. There's a plethora. If you want to learn more,
Mhm.
all of those things, there's a plethora of information on Oil and Water Don't Mix. It's a great
And
website.
definitely
It
a way to
explains all of
plug
the
in,
things.
view it through, the website. You can get involved some type of way.
Yeah, yeah. And if all you can do is make a phone call, make that phone call. But we
Exactly.
we do hope that folks are going to show up. We're going to be there, and standing with people all over Michigan to say that stops now. This has
It
to
has
this has
to.
to end. We can't do this any longer. And with all of the things that are happening around the world, this is one thing that we can all agree on,
Yes.
that we have to protect the Great Lakes. It's 20% of the world's fresh water. We're stewards of the Great Lakes. It was a gift given to us as Michiganders, and we're stewards of it. And so
Yes.
it's on us to do this. And so I really appreciate everyone who has joined the fight, has been doing this for a long time, has been organizing and doing everything that they possibly can to stop Line 5. We really appreciate everyone, and certainly appreciate you, Ashley, for the work
Yes.
that you do. Thank you.
Do you have any final thoughts for
Thank you.
our viewers before we end, Ashley?
Just thank you for standing strong, being a part of this movement. It really, that is what puts wind in the sails for these cases to move forward, for the agencies to make the right decisions, to hold our politicians accountable. Like, that does not happen without people power. So thank you for being a
Absolutely.
part of it.
That's right. Well, thank you again to our viewers. Times are hard. We got to look out for each other. We got to stand together and firmly against Line 5. We can do this. And, look out for each other, take care of each other, and try to stay afloat. Bye.